Okay. Am I muffled? Yes, it's hump day. That's why it's all crazy. You know what I mean? Oh, thumbs up. Hey, love the reactions. Yeah, come on in. Hi, I'm Sara Stevick. I am the founder and president of Teaching, a Path to L&D, but I'm also a senior learning experience designer for a major retail company and technologist, which has been so much fun, been learning a lot. I'm super excited to be able to just host a general Q&A with everyone here. I am going to have with me my wonderful producer and vice president of TPLD, which is Ricky Fisher. And so I'm so excited to hear that the sound is much better. So I'm gonna, hey Ricky. Yay.
Hello.
Happy day for technology. All right. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this kicked off. I know we have a lot of questions. We got about an hour together. So first question. So you can drop them into the Q&A, I guess, or the chat. Q&A feature is probably going to be a little bit better. Let's hold the chat for like chatter. Feel free to introduce yourself, say hey to people, but yeah. All right. So Ricky, I know we had some questions from our LinkedIn group. If you're not part of our LinkedIn group, we hope that you will come and be a part of our LinkedIn group.
Yeah, so we've got a few questions in the LinkedIn group, which we'll handle those first while people drop their general questions in the Q&A. And the first question I have is from Chris Bradburn. And the question is, I'm curious about which of our teaching skills are most directly transferable and where we should strive to upskill.
Ooh, that's a really great question. I know. So just background, we did have, I did do a video with Devlin Peck, and that is available on his YouTube site, where we did go through a whole bunch of prioritizing different skills and whatnot to focus on when looking to get into ID. So Ricky, if you wouldn't mind just trying to find a link for that, and we'll pop that into the chat, the chitter chatter over there. But so look, some people say our trade-in process.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're just adding in a little flavor there. Nothing wrong with a little flavor. So with teaching, when you go through a formalized program, if you went through, you got your bachelor's or your master's or your doctorate, which many teachers have, part of going through that programming is that you really get a sense of how to analyze your learners and figure out how to meet their needs, how to create instructional materials that are able to meet those needs, and then how to collect data on that and then present it to show your students' progress over the years, right? That is very similar to what instructional designers do. That's a big part of what they do. Where the nuances come in is that, some things that are very, very different that we don't focus on as much in teaching as we do in, say, like the corporate setting. Graphic design. So if you haven't yet gotten into the principles of graphic design, definitely check that out. An excellent book I always recommend is Robin Williams, is not the actor, but the ID or the graphic designer. She has the non-designer's design book, and it is money, let me tell you. And it's a nice book that you can just kind of like pick up and like read different parts of it. So that's a really big element of it. In the corporate world, you're not around learning professionals as your peer groups typically. That's just a small part of your work realm. Most times your interactions are with non-learning professionals. And because of that, in their minds, the visual representation is going to equate to efficacy. Now, I've seen some really not so pretty, really highly effective instructional materials, and I've seen some really, really pretty ineffective instructional materials. So, are those two really correlated? No. But in the corporate setting, if your instructional materials are not designed with the visuals in mind and with an adult consumer in mind, so as much as we love the animations and the little clip arts and the cute little stickers, and I'm guilty too, I would just slap pictures on there like it was Christmas. I'd just be like, got a picture for you, and it was like the Oprah of clip art, right? But we really don't want to be doing that for instructional design. Like, it needs to look like it was a purchased program that they went through. So yes, you do have to spend more time on that element. The best news is you're not scrambling the night before you have to teach a whole bunch of kids the next day to try and make those materials. No, you actually like have a whole bunch of time to meet and say, okay, now what is it that you would like us to make? Why would you like us to make it? What are the results that you would like to have out of it? Here's some different ideas, that kind of stuff. And then you have a lot of time to build and create and make sure all of those elements do look professional and they do look nice. So definitely graphic design is a big one. That's different that you'll want to focus on. The instructional design principles are huge. Understanding instructional systems design. So that's a big difference between teaching and instructional design, is that it's more of a piecemeal system that gets put together. And the instructional designer's in charge of one of those pieces. And then business acumen. What is business acumen? Definitely Google it. There's lots of really great websites out there that talk about business acumen competencies. There's free trainings. There's YouTube and LinkedIn Learning, which if you're not part of LinkedIn Learning, you definitely should be. You get 30 days free, and then you can go through your local library for most cases. But, if you do decide after the 30 days to purchase it, I think it's like $30 a month. Well worth it. It's unlimited learning, and you get a little certificate with it. So that's just a little bit of that. I know we probably have some other questions that we want to get to. So I want to make sure that we have a little bit of time for that.
Yeah. So next question comes from Dakota on
Hey,
LinkedIn.
Dakota.
And Dakota asks or says, I'm going to read the whole, kind of has a couple questions in here, but you can tackle them both at the same time. It says, one of the biggest questions I've been struggling with is how long did it take from deciding to leave teaching to applying for jobs / getting hired? At what point did you know you were ready to start applying for jobs? I've been working on gaining more skills and working in my portfolio, but I'm struggling a bit with imposter syndrome and feeling like I don't know enough, but also know I'll never know everything until I get in and start working.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot, isn't it? And first off, you're not alone. I think, I know for myself, I can definitely relate to that question. I can definitely relate to feeling like that. And, something that I think we don't talk about enough as a society is that, we see adults and we're like, oh, wow, they have all of their stuff together and they're like leading companies and they're doing these great things and they know what they're doing. And I'm over here and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And so how could I possibly compete? Right? Here's a secret. Literally, no one knows what the heck they're doing at any given time. It's just you learn through experience and you learn as much as you can and you move forward with it and acknowledge and accept that you're going to make mistakes, and those are going to be your best learning experiences. So with that being said, now let me answer your actual question, which is, and you're not going to like this answer, but it depends. It depends how much time you have to devote to upskilling. It depends what your experience and background is. It depends, are you already tech savvy? Are you, you know, I think for me, I can tell you about my experience and how long it took me and what I did to get there, which is I left teaching February of 2020 due to health reasons. I hadn't even heard of instructional design. I cried for about 2 weeks because I had no idea what I was going to do. And then I stumbled across it because we all do that Google thing, right? Give me some reactions if you did the Google thing where you were like, what to do if you're a teacher and you don't want to be a teacher, right? Like we've all Googled some sort of form of that, right? And instructional design came up, as it often does. It is an excellent choice if you are an individual who really likes to create materials, who likes to be part of a team and collaborative effort. Also, if you're not somebody who feels like they have to teach what they made for. So very rarely do you see the aha moments. You're kind of like the behind the scenes creator of it. Think of like a movie, if you will. But so started researching, learning, and I quote unquote revamped my resume, which was not a revamp of my resume. It was my teacher resume that said, please, 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 please hire me. I have all of these awesome teacher skills. And I didn't get a lot of bites from that. And so as I really broke apart my day, okay, like I scheduled it to the T. I was lucky that I had the luxury of of being able to devote my full day to it. I know that not everybody has that, but I'll give you kind of two different options there. So for me, what I did is in the mornings, I would devote 2 to 3 hours to e-learnings, and then I'd listen to a podcast, and then I'd work in an authoring tool. I would only start one free trial at a time because I wanted to make sure that I documented all my hours so that I could say, well, I don't have X amount of years in it. However, I do have X amount of hours in it, and this is what I've made with that, which is always really great practice. And as I started going through this, and I said, this is embarrassing, but well, not really embarrassing. I don't know why I said that that's embarrassing because it's really not. I think it's a stigma that, we feel like we should be ashamed of submitting 60, 70, 80 applications and not hearing anything back. So I think Einstein, said it best, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? So I knew something about my application documents, something about the way I was presenting myself wasn't right. So I got on to the Google, and the Google told me a whole bunch of stuff that I was like, oh, I didn't know about any of that, like the ATS system. If you haven't researched the ATS, which is the applicant tracking system, it's kind of like saying the ATM machine, which is an automated teller machine. It's like saying the word. Anyway, I digressed. So I really started to learn about what I can include on my resume, what I shouldn't include on my resume. I did get a couple of different interviews for positions that weren't instructional design, and I didn't get those positions, but I always ask for feedback because what they'll tell you is very helpful. It's not always the most comforting, and it's a little bit of a humble pie, but it's a worthwhile bite of pie. So when you write your resume for every job under the sun, that doesn't communicate your skill set, that you have taken the time to dedicate and understand what the nuances of this position that you're moving into really would be. And that comes across as a bit transient. Because when a hiring manager or recruiter reads a resume that they're like, I could be an instructional designer or an astronaut or, a doctor, all these different things. And because I have this experience, okay, but once you get into the role, are you going to stay? Because it's really expensive to hire. It's super expensive to hire and to recruit and to do the interviews. So once you're at the interview stage, they're rooting for you to do well, because if you don't do well, then they have to start over again. So, that's a common, fallacy that we tend to adopt and think, is that, the interviewers are out to catch us, or trying to figure out a way to trip us up, but they're actually not. They're rooting for us to succeed. But dedicating my time to understanding that, so I went back to my resume. I made sure that it was tailored to have uh, what I did, how I did it, and what the results of that were, and put it in the context of the job that I was applying for. So I was applying for instructional design. I have a lot of different experience in a lot of different things. For example, I am fluent in sign language, but that's not on my resume, even though that's a big part of what I, as a teacher, would identify with, that I feel like is an important highlight. That's not what they're looking for. They tell you what they're looking for and the types of achievements that they want to see outlined on your resume in their job description. So think about your resume as really being your like straight to it, nitty gritty. This is how I am a fit for this type of role and job. All the extra stuff doesn't belong on your resume. So make sure to take that off. The other thing, so you need a portfolio. And I'm not saying that's the most important thing. I'm saying that with the market the way that it is, with the job market and candidates the way that it is, you need to have a portfolio to be competitive. And these portfolios should not have anything from your teaching days. If they do have something from your teaching days, typically these are going to be redesigned. And that's because when we're teaching, we're designing for a younger audience. Okay. We didn't have time to put in the graphic design components. We may or may not have used some of the tools that they're looking to see. It is okay to put a slide deck on your portfolio. It is okay to put, an image or a graphic or a movie that you made, but it's not okay to put something slapped together in the rush of a teacher thing that has high efficacy but poor visuals. Okay, so you always want to think about who your end audience is. Now, if you're applying to be an instructional designer for a K-12 developer, like if you want to go for an ed tech company, that makes sense to put stuff from your teaching days if that's redesigned. If you want to go for, like a corporation or higher ed, you need to design something that showcases that you're able to design for that audience. So, really figuring out that you need to have a portfolio. The portfolio needs to be good. It does not need a million examples. Once you have your portfolio, should always be and only be your very best, most current representation of your abilities. So you should refresh your portfolio really with the change of seasons. Same thing with your resume, because you're going to add new skills and whatnot to it. So really, really kind of think about, you're going to be ready to start applying when you read a job description and you're like, I know what they're asking for here. You're going to be ready to start applying when you have 1 to 2 really good, solid work samples on your portfolio. Doesn't have to be the flashiest. It doesn't have to have every bell and whistle. It just has to have what is required, right? So definitely need to do upskilling, and you definitely need to be able to talk about how your teaching experience applies to what you're doing in ID. That time is different for everyone. for me, I started applying and seeing results probably mid-March. So about a month later. Yeah. But again, I had all day, every day, and I treated it like my full-time job. Now, if you don't have that type of time to devote, that's completely okay. Set goals for yourself for the week. Like, I'm going to do 3 hours of e-learning a week, and then I'm going to spend at least 5 hours over the course of the week building. So it depends, unfortunately.
Yeah, for me, I was teaching still, so it took me about 6 months. And that was building portfolio, translating my resume, all of that. So, like she said at the beginning, I think to recap, Sarah, what you said at the beginning, it just depends and on all those factors that you just listed.
And there's nothing wrong with it, depending, by the way. If it takes you a year, that's okay. If it takes you 2 years, that's okay. I know that's not ideal for those who are wanting to get out. I get that. But be kind to yourself, okay? Don't look at what other people are doing, because other people are not you. They're not. And if you're trying to get a job based off of what other people are doing, it's going to take you longer to transition. You need to focus on what you're doing.
All right, so I've got another question here. I'm in the Q&A in the chat, so if you haven't added your questions yet, please go in, add your questions, upvote other questions, so we know what is most pressing on your mind. But I've got a question from Hazel. Says, can you talk through a typical day or week as an instructional designer, particularly in a remote role, if you are able to speak to that?
Oh, Hazel. Thank you for your question. So, if you're a teacher, when people are like, so what do you do all day? And you're like, oh gosh. uh so it's kind of similar to instructional design in that way. Because it's project based, your days look different every day. And because instructional design means so many different things, I know that was another question that we had, was like, there's so many roles and so many titles. Like, how do we know? It's going to depend what type of company you work for, how big your team is. It's going to depend on, what your company knows about learning and development. So instructional design falls under the learning and development umbrella. Okay, so you can think of learning and development as like a career cluster, if you're familiar with career clusters. Instructional design is just one role for that. They might also be called learning experience designers. There's two camps here. I'm not here to start a war. To me, good instructional design is learning experience design. So to me, they mean the same, but I can see where certain roles might have more of a distinction for it based on their interpretation of what instructional design is, which is a very frustrating answer. And I realize that. I wish I had a better one for you. But I can tell you about my right now. So, for example, today, especially in a remote position, right now, my son is home with me full time, which has been very, 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 very challenging. In fact, he's awake right now. Go to sleep, sweetie. I love you. I know. Sorry about that. He's a little cranky. He's 30. But so today, for example, I went to about 6 meetings on different things. And I worked on a storyboard. I built a little bit an articulate storyline. Well, come out and get water, sweetheart. Sorry. This is what it is to work remote. This is what it is to try and balance family and work and passions, it's hard, but you do what you can, and sometimes you have to say, hold on just a minute. I'm going to go fix this, or let me call you back, or, hey, it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to go ahead and finish this e-learning that I couldn't do today because my son was having a temper tantrum for 2 hours straight. Right. So that was today. Last week, I was really working to get it's called a WalkMe solution. So WalkMe is a digital adoption platform. I was working to get that out the door. So you're going to have multiple projects at any given time. Those projects are going to be at different parts in the instructional design life cycle of a project. So you have your intake, right? So you're going to be doing your needs assessment, and then your analysis. You're going to meet with your SME and your key stakeholders and your client. You're really going to figure out, why is it that we're requesting a training? Is training the right solution? You're going to come up with a plan and a proposal that needs to be agreed upon by the group. And then once that is developed, then you start storyboarding sometimes, or sometimes you go into rapid prototyping. So you just start the build to send over for review. That goes through a review process. And then once you get feedback from that, from your clients and stakeholders. And by the way, you're not expected to know about the content and the subject matter. That's not your job. Your job is to listen to the subject matter expert and take out key parts of that and then put it into a training. It helps if you dig in a little deeper and work your best to try and understand what that means. And but yeah, so then you build it, and then it goes out, they review it, they give you notes to change it up, you change it up, and then you work on your pilot and get it out to a focus group. You get their feedback, and then it goes live, and then you do a retrospective. So you come back and you should, and think about, what went well, what could we change for next time, so that type of life cycle is at different parts for different projects that you're working on at any given time. You might even be part of a team where you're the instructional design lead and you're leading that process, or you might just be a contributor in that process. So somebody else is doing the lead, like the project I'm working on right now. Someone else we're going to have a guest star, is doing the lead, right? And I'm doing a lot of the build. And so, it just depends. And I think that's what I love about it, is because every day, just like in teaching, it looks a little bit different. You're always working on something new. You're always learning something new. Yeah, we're not doing that on the TV. Yeah, I know you. Yeah, you think you're cute. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Yeah. Okay. Now go on. Go back to bed. I love you. Working from home. Oh gosh. So, it's about rolling with the punches. Does that help?
Next question, Sarah, is what project results can be included on a resume when the projects are created solely for a portfolio and haven't been used in the real world?
I love this question. Okay. So, just because you've made something for a portfolio doesn't mean you can't test it out. So, when you're thinking about building something or designing something, on your resume, you can talk about your real world teacher results, that you designed, developed, and implemented a curriculum, and, which resulted in a 25, 50, 75% improvement on, those targeted behaviors or key performance indicators, which are really just their standards. How are they doing on the standards? They're doing good because I'm a good teacher. Yeah. So, but if you want to show results on a portfolio with a quote unquote mock project. What I did for my portfolio, I did it on baby proofing. And so what I actually did is I went into my mom's group on Facebook and I asked them, because I needed to do a little bit of a needs assessment. I said, you know, what are some things that you didn't know that you had to baby proof before, you know, you had a kid, you know? And from that drove what content I included in my e-learning. Nico, you need to go lay down, please. Yes. So then I designed and developed it, and then I sent it out to the same group, and I asked for their feedback. I asked, is this helpful? What would you change? How did you do on it? You know, so even though it wasn't real, I made it real. I made results real by finding a group willing to test it out for me. Yeah, great question.
Great. And Sarah, if you need to walk away for a minute to put a child back in bed, I know what that's like, then feel free. I can entertain for a minute. But the next question is, you can go ahead, Sarah, it's fine. Allison asks, how necessary is it to get an MA in instructional design or a related field in order to secure work and learn skills? And I mean, if I were to take a stab at this question,
please do.
Q&A with Ricky Fisher. So my short answer is it's not necessary. And so it just depends on what kind of experience you're looking for. If you want to go out and look for the YouTube videos, the tutorials, all of that is somewhere. You know, TPLD has provided a lot of it. There are a lot of kind of thought leaders in the industry that have provided free tutorials, all that kind of stuff. It's all available out there. If you want it, and if you want some sort of paper certifying you at the end, then sure, you can go for an MA. You can, you know, we don't encourage or discourage joining academy or something like that, but you can do that if you want curated content and all of that. But I mean, as teachers, we're resourceful. We know that we can go to Google. We know we can go to other resources. We can find things. It just depends on what kind of experience you're looking for. And so my short answer is, how necessary is it? It's not necessary. It's just dependent on what kind of experience you want.
Yes.
You're stuck around to hear my answer the whole time.
I did. He'll be fine. I'll put him in bed.
I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, Sarah.
I agree. I 100% agree. You know, to be an instructional designer, you need a degree. You do need one of those. You typically, in order to be competitive, and like if you don't already have like an in, like you're not already at the company and you're like falling into it at the company, you need to have a related degree. Education, that's a related degree. You learn how to develop curriculum within that. You learn how to develop strong instructional materials to to teach, to get a point across. You know, you do need a degree. Yes. If you already have an education, bachelor's at minimum, you already have what you need as far as papers concerned. As far as skills concerned, you have a lot of upskilling still to do. If you're someone who's considering an academy or a degree or anything like that, always ask yourself why and what would you really be gaining from it that you couldn't gain elsewhere. And it's okay if the reason is I don't have time to curate my own materials and content. I need that delivered to me. That's okay if that's the answer and that's your reason, but it should be your reason for purchasing, and it should be, the end should justify the means, and with the understanding that as long as you already have a degree, you don't need another one. Now, I see a question in the chat. What if the degree is not education-based, but you have experience in teaching higher ed? If you have a degree and you have experience in teaching, you do not need an additional degree. Would an additional degree in that instance potentially be helpful with the methodology? Yes. Is it something that you couldn't get from strong self-research? No, you could definitely get that on your own if you wanted to. It's all out there for free. But I will say, with everything, practice is what makes us better. And not just practice, but intentional practice and intentional learning to become better, to reflect on where you've been and how you could be doing better, all that. So, no, a degree is not necessary. I echo what Ricky said. There's some great YouTube videos out there that if you're considering an academy or a master's program or anything like that, it'll walk you through the questions to ask. So definitely look into that.
All right. Next question. Hold on. Some of our questions have shifted.
I can
All right.
in the meantime.
Next one looks like comes from Carrie Ann, and it is, there are so many jobs or titles in L&D and instructional design. How do we narrow down the roles that are right for us?
Oh, I love this question. Thank you for asking it. Instructional design is not for everyone. It's not. Just because you're a great teacher does not mean that you're going to be a great instructional designer. Just because you maybe teaching wasn't your thing, that doesn't mean that instructional design's not for you. It all depends on you. So how do you determine what to go for? Before even jumping into thinking about revamping your resume or building a portfolio or learning, anything like that, before doing that, you need to talk to you first. You know you better than you give yourself credit for. And that was something that took me a while to come to accept and realize that I'm in control of my destiny, just like you're in control of your destiny. And so first step is to list out, here's all the things that I have skill wise. Think of it like tasks that you can do. So are you like good at coordinating and scheduling for calendars? Are you good at developing rapport with your student? Whatever. Like, think about your daily job. Think about all the jobs that you've ever had. It doesn't just have to be teaching. It can be your side gigs. For example, I used to own a karaoke business. Having to manage people in that capacity and delegate responsibilities for that and make sure that everything was taken care of, those were skills that I gained. So you're going to list out all of your skills, and you're going to list out all of your passions, and you're also going to take out some time to list out the things that you do not want to do. There's things about teaching that you don't want to do, that you never want to experience again. There's going to be things about environments that you never want to experience again. So that's the first step, is really doing a self-assessment. What is it that I'm coming in the door with? What am I good at? What do I like to do? What do I want to do? And what do I not want to do? Once you have that list ready, then you take those different job descriptions that you see, you go on to, say, Glassdoor, or just use Google in general and say, type in competencies or skill sets for instructional design, skill sets for user experience design, skill sets for customer success, and take a look at the job descriptions, take a look at the competencies that are required for that in order to do those jobs, compare them to your lists, and see, okay, is this something that I align well with? How many things in here do I not want to do? Does this sound like a good fit for me? And then I think what the most frustrating thing that you're going to come across is that you're going to have so many passions and you're going to have so many talents. That's one thing that being an educator really does provide you with, is the ability to be a chameleon. And that can make it hard to make a decision. What I would say to that is find then like 2 or 3, maybe even 4, and give yourself 1 week to really delve in deep to those and come out with one top choice. Max 2 if you have a lot of time to devote and spare, because you will have to put in a lot of time and energy and effort into upskilling to translate. So a career is not a life sentence. It's not a destination. It's a journey. You're going to change your path so many times, and that's okay. Like, I love instructional design, but I also really love technology, and that's taken me down a new route. So now I'm, looking at learning technologist or digital adoption manager, and like, it doesn't mean that I have to say goodbye to the other things. You're not sacrificing those loves. You're just picking one to focus on that you're like, yeah, I could see me spending my time during my workday doing this. There's other ways to fill your cup in the passion side. So part of the way that I love instructional design, when I accepted my position and I began in July 2020, beginning of July. And my first 3 months, I was like, oh yeah, I'm learning. I'm like, and before I started, I got the job and I was like, yes, I finally made it. And then I was like, oh my God, I finally made it. They're going to figure me out. Like, I had horrible anxiety those couple weeks before I started the job, because I was like, there's no way that I could possibly do this. Like, I researched it and I read all these things, and I know that I aced the interview and I did all these things, but I can't actually do this job. Like, they're going to figure me out. So I had a lot of anxiety. And then I started the job. And then it was onboarding. I'm like, I can do onboarding. I can take e-learnings. Yeah. And then my first assignment was to review slide decks, aka PowerPoints for my new teacher transitioners. All PowerPoints are called slide decks. It is a beast. You are so right, Carrie Ann. It is such a beast, that imposter syndrome. And so then I was like reviewing the deck. I was like, oh, well, we could do this here and this here. Could I take this part? And they were like, yeah, run with it. And that became my first assignment, is that I was revamping those decks. And then it just went from there. And you're never going to stop learning. You're still going to take, LinkedIn courses. You're still going to watch YouTube. You're still going to go to roundtables. You'll be doing that your entire career. And it will be the best decision that you ever made, because the best investment that you can make is in yourself and in your knowledge. And so, you just gotta get in there and pick a job, and know that if you decide later on, every couple of months, you need to stop and say, am I still happy? Am I still working towards the goals and what I want to accomplish? Is this job, is this role taking away anything from my life? Is this in some way detrimental to me, my family? Because you and your family come first. They do. And so if the answer is yes, it's okay to say, you know what? I'm going to try something else. And it's going to be scary and I won't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to be okay. Just like you figured out how to crawl, how to walk, how to read, how to write. Things that we look back on now and are like, of course, how did I ever not know how to do that? Right? Like, you'll get to that point. And that's how you know you're growing, is when you're in that uncomfortable state of, I don't know. And admitting that you don't know is the most powerful thing that you can do, because that means that you can take action to fix it. Hope I answered the question there. I think I came about it like in a roundabout way.
It's good. All right. So, Sarah, there are 2 questions left, so I'm limiting you to 5 minutes for each question.
Gosh, I like to ramble. Okay, go.
And so I'm limiting you to 5 minutes, and also I'm cutting off question asking, so that we end at 8:30. But next question comes from Rebecca, and it is, what does a typical onboarding period look like for an instructional designer? And is there usually support for newbies to learn the ropes?
Ooh, yeah. Good question. 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. Got this. Okay, so typical onboarding for an instructional designer. First, you're going to go through your company onboarding. So you're going to learn stuff like, this is our mission. These are our values, and you're going to learn a little bit about the job. You will learn about what are called standards of practice, or SOPs, for your company. So these are the brand colors. These are the design assets that we use. Here's, all that. Yes. As far as supports for newbies, that depends on the type of role. If you go in as a junior instructional designer, you're going to have a lot more support. Just a regular associate level, you're going to be expected to be able to hold your own in a design project. You won't necessarily always be expected to lead a design project. Again, that depends on the team, that depends on the company, and that's always something you want to ask about in your interviews. You want to ask, what is the team structure? What capacity would this role be working in on different projects? How many projects at any given time? What does your support system look like? What does your onboarding experience look like? What are the, key milestones for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months out for this role? Those kinds of things. Now, what I will say is, it's up to you when you're looking at different positions and different roles. I know it doesn't feel like you have the luxury of turning down a role. Please turn down a role if it in any way gives you any sort of hesitation. You know you best. You know you best. It's not worth it. It's not worth jumping out of the pot and into the fire. Okay? It's not. If you are not confident, do not take the role. Bless you. So yes, there are supports. A lot of companies often give you a onboarding buddy or mentor. If you accept a senior instructional design role, you're going to be expected to lead projects and be able to consult. I went in as a senior instructional designer. It wasn't a problem for me. But, I know everybody's experience is different. I taught 11 different subjects. I created curriculum for all of those subjects, on multiple different levels, especially when I was a special educator. So to me, it wasn't, that big of a difference in that capacity. I don't know, baby. What I will say, though, is something very important that I want to mention before moving on, is that when you are creating instruction for training in a company, they're not there to learn. That is a big difference between creating instruction for a institution that their whole goal of being there is to learn, and an institution or company where the whole goal of being there is to make money and do work. When you take them out to do a training, that not only costs money for them not doing their job during that time, but that also costs money for you to create it. It costs money for you to deliver it, and the trainers there's so much money that goes into training. It does not need any fluff. If it does not drive a behavioral change, it does not need to be in that training. Okay? So that is very important to know, that is a big difference between teaching and instructional design. Is when you're a teacher, you're designing for those kids to just learn all day. When you are designing training, you're designing something to help them do their job better. And if any part of that doesn't help achieve that goal, it does not belong in a training. no matter how cool it is or how interesting. Okay, next question. Did I keep it to 5 minutes? Did I win?
Yeah, you did. And also, I just want to add to it, though, and I might go over your 5 minutes, sorry, is most of what Sarah described would be applicable to a like corporate full-time job. But if you are a contractor, then your onboarding is going it's going to be pretty much non-existent. So as as a contractor, you're going to go in, they're going to expect you to have a certain level of skill. You're going to get handed projects and you're just going to be off and running. And so, you know, make sure you're paying attention when you're applying with your comfort level. Make sure you're paying attention to whether that is a corporate full-time salaried position versus a corporate contractor position, because contracting is going to be a different animal, which I have learned. So,
and it depends too on the company that you contract with.
Absolutely, yes.
So that's, again, when you do your interviews, anytime you need to ask what those supports are. So we can give these high level, you know, generalizations, but it depends on the company. And I will say too, I've never freelanced. I can't speak to freelancing. I've never done higher ed. I can't speak to what that process is like there. If you want to know someone else's experience in those things, then you're going to have to find someone on LinkedIn that does have that experience, reach out and ask.
Yeah. And there are differences between contract roles that are W-2s versus contract roles that are 1099s and all of that as well. So,
and contract companies, because you can get a role with a contract company that then kind of like leases you out to different companies.
Right. So anyway, there's a whole rabbit trail we could go down with that, but just wanted to point out there's a difference between a corporate salaried position versus a contractor position with onboarding, with skill levels, with all of that. So, all right, last question, and I don't think it'll take that long for us to answer, but you have 3 minutes, Sarah.
Clocks don't rule me, Ricky.
I know. They rule me because I have a meeting after this.
No,
what's your sense of the demand for instructional design outside of the US, such as Asia or Europe? Is knowing a second or third language advantageous?
So what I will say is I've only ever been an instructional designer in the United States. I do work with instructional designers outside of the United States, however, in my current role. So what I would say to that is knowing multiple languages, yes, can be very beneficial, especially if you're designing for a global company. And if you need to have your content translated, there are roles out there that are specific to that. Nico, please don't do that, buddy. But honestly, I don't have that experience. I couldn't really say. I know I would highly recommend the Global Learning and Development Community, myGLDC.com. It's a free community to join. They meet every Friday at 12 Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what time that is for everybody listening in. But that has learning and development professionals from all over the world, and they do breakout sessions where you can ask them questions. So that would be a really great opportunity to kind of get a better feel for that global audience and what that would be like.
Great. And I think that is it. So thank you, Sarah, for all of your wisdom. And
did we all have a good time? Did we have a good time here? Did we learn some things? Oh, good. I like watching them all float up from the bottom. It's so much fun. I'm like, oh.
And thank you all for your questions. If you have any other questions or anything stemming from that wasn't answered, please feel free to post it on LinkedIn. We have Feedback Fridays, which always ask for your questions. And then, of course, you can just post on the wall in our LinkedIn group. And you can tag Sarah, you can tag someone else that you want to answer from, one of our community managers, and we can make sure that we get you the answers that you are seeking. So,
and I think too, I'm gonna take a 10-minute break, but I will be out in the lobby in about 10 minutes. If you want to join a table, mingle, get to know each other, your community is so important in any transition that you're going. That's a lot. It's a lot to go through, and the more people that you have in your corner, the better off you'll be. So I'll be out in the lobby in about 10 minutes after I get that crazy thing that just popped by back into bed. So thanks, Ricky. I appreciate you, and thanks everyone for coming. We see you in a month. All right. Honestly, I don't know how this ends. So you might just be stuck with me for like forever. I mean, I guess you could just turn it off because I do tend to ramble. Let's see. How do I get out of here? Okay. Well, I'll see you all. I don't know how to leave.
I think our host has to stop the.
Our hostess is the mostest.
Yeah, our hostess.